Day one was all concept. We covered what OpenClaw is, how the architecture works, and why it's different from every other AI tool you've seen. That foundation mattered, but if I'm being honest, day one exists to set up today. Today is where it all becomes real. I'm Aliraj, and welcome to day two of the OpenClaw Bootcamp. By the end of this session, you're going to have an actual running AI agent on your own machine. It's going to be your own agent connected to a real AI model with Telegram set up, so you can pull out your phone, send a message, and get a reply back. That's the finish line for today, and let's go build it. Here's exactly what we're covering today so you know what's coming. We start with getting Node installed because that's the foundation everything else runs on. Then we run the openclaw installer, which is a single command, followed by the onboarding wizard, which is where you actually configure the tool for the first time. After that, we get the gateway running, open the dashboard, and send your first message to confirm the whole stack is actually working. Then we go a layer deeper. We walk through the workspace files the wizard created for you, look at the config file, and what each section does, and then do a proper Telegram setup from creating the bot all the way to pairing your personal account. We close with the errors that actually trip people up and the security habits worth building now rather than after something goes wrong. A lot of ground, but we move through it efficiently. So there's 3 concrete outcomes for today. This is what success looks like by the end of this. First, number 1, OpenClaw is installed and you have the gateway running. Number 2 is now you've had your first real back and forth conversation with your agent through the dashboard. And 3, Telegram is connected so you can reach your agent from your phone wherever you are. The pipeline at the bottom shows the exact sequence: install Node, install OpenClaw, run onboarding, get the gateway running, send the first message, connect Telegram. Each step feeds directly into the next. Don't skip or reorder anything. Quick 60 seconds to make sure we're on the same page before we get into the technical steps. OpenClaw is a persistent agent daemon. That phrase matters because it's what makes it different. It's not a chatbot that lives inside the browser tab and forgets everything when you close it, runs in the background on your machine continuously, and responds to you through whatever channels you connect to it. Telegram, WhatsApp, Discord, iMessage. The behavior of that agent lives in plain markdown files sitting on your hard drive. You open up a text file, you edit it, and the agent's going to change. The config is just JSON. There's no cloud dashboard and no vendor lock-in. What you do today is the foundation. Every session from day 3 to day 16 builds directly on top of what you set up in the next hour. All right, so before anything else, let's check if your machine is actually ready. Open a terminal right now and run node-v. That's the only check that matters. If it prints version 24 or anything above version 22.14, you're good to go and you can skip to the next slide. If you get a version older than that, or if the terminal tells you that the command isn't found, I'm going to walk you through installation for every platform over the next 3 slides. On macOS, you're going to need version 12 or higher of the operating system. Node 24 is recommended, and Homebrew is the fastest path to get it. On Linux, Ubuntu 20, Debian 11, and Fedora all work. And on Windows, native Windows via PowerShell is fully supported, and WSL2 is the recommended path if you want access to the complete feature set. In terms of the disk space, you're going to need about 500 megabytes, and you almost certainly have that. 3 ways to install Node on macOS, and all 3 actually work, so use whichever fits how you already work. The recommended path is Homebrew. If you don't have Homebrew yet, it's one command from brew.sh, and it takes about 2 minutes. Once it's installed, running brew install node gets you Node 24 automatically. That's the method the OpenClaw docs point to. Now, if you'd rather download it directly, go to nodejs.org, grab the LTS build, run the package installer, and you're done. It's totally valid as well. If you already use a version manager like FNM or NVM, run FNM install 24, then FNM use 24, and you're set. The NVM equivalent works the exact same way. One thing I want to flag is if you do go the version manager route, make sure it gets initialized inside your shell config file, either zshell rc file or your -rc file. If that initialization line isn't there, the new terminal sessions won't be able to find the OpenClaw command after you install it, which is one of the more confusing things to debug because the tool is technically installed, but it's just not on your path. I'm telling you now so you don't spend 20 minutes on it later. After any of these methods, confirm it with node-v. You want to see version 24. On Linux, the right method depends on your distro. For Ubuntu or Debian, use node source setup script. Those 2 commands on screen specifically pull Node 24 and install it through apt. This is the correct approach. Don't use the Node version that ships with your distro's package manager because those are typically years behind and won't meet the minimum version requirement. Now for Fedora, use sudo dnf install.js. Those work fine. Or use FNM the same way you would on macOS. If you go with FNM, you get one consistent command across every platform, like FNM install 24, FNM use 24. It's a good tool and it's worth adding if you don't already have it. One thing to watch for after installation is if you later see a message saying OpenClaw command not found, Run npm prefix -g to find out where npm puts globally installed packages. Take that path, add /bin to the end of it, and then add that full path to your path variable in your bash rc. That's almost always the fix. Let me clear something up before we go any further because there's a lot of wrong information about this online. OpenClaw runs natively on Windows. You do not need WSL2. Native Windows through PowerShell is a fully supported first-class path. If you're on Windows and don't want to deal with WSL2, that's completely fine. But that said, WSL2 gives you a richer experience and access to the complete feature set. So my practical recommendation is use WSL2 if you can, native Windows if you can't or prefer not to. For native Windows, the fastest method is running winget install openjs.node.js.lts from PowerShell. Chocolatey works too if that's already part of your setup. Or grab the installer directly from nodejs.org. For WSL2, you want to open up PowerShell as an administrator, run wsl install, reboot, and then you get an Ubuntu environment. Inside that Ubuntu terminal, install Node directly through FNM, exactly the same way you would on Linux. One thing worth knowing is that the openclaw install script in the next step detects which environment you're running automatically. You don't have to configure anything separately. All right, at this point, Node is confirmed. Now we can install openclaw itself, and this is genuinely a single command. On macOS, Linux, or inside WSL2, the command is the curl install script you see on screen. It downloads and runs the official installer. On native Windows through PowerShell, you use the PowerShell version instead, which is also shown on the screen. What either of these actually does under the hood is run npm to install openclaw globally, which is what gives you the openclaw command everywhere inside your terminal. There are other install paths if you have specific infrastructure requirements, like Docker, Nix, or just running npm install directly, but the script handles edge cases automatically, and it's the fastest way to get running. After it finishes, you want to run openclaw -- version to confirm that it worked. You should see a version number printed. If you see command not found instead, that's a path issue and it's covered on the troubleshooting slide. This is a step that trips a lot of people up and I want to get very clear about it. The installer you just ran and the setup wizard are two completely separate steps. Installing the binary does not configure it. You have to run the onboarding wizard separately. The command is openclaw onboard with the install daemon flag. The install daemon flag is what registers the gateway as a background service on your system, so it starts automatically every time you log in. You want that behavior, so make sure to include the flag. The wizard walks you through 4 things in sequence. First, model selection and authentication. You pick which AI provider you want to use and paste in your API key. We cover exactly how to do that on the next few slides. Second is workspace setup. The wizard sets the path for the workspace, which defaults to a folder called Workspace inside the .openclaw directory inside your home folder, and it creates all the starting files you need, like soul, agents, and user markdown files, as well as everything else. Third, there's channels. So the wizard will offer to connect Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord right now. You can do it here or skip it and come back to it later. For today, I'd suggest skipping it because we walk through Telegram properly as its own dedicated step later in the session. Fourth and finally, the daemon installation and health check. The wizard registers the gateway as a service and then runs a live check to confirm everything is working correctly before it exits. The whole thing takes somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. The wizard is going to ask you which AI provider you want to use. Now let me give you a real framework for thinking about this rather than just giving you all the options. For most people just starting out, Claude Sonnet from Anthropic is the recommendation. It has the strongest reasoning, writing, and coding performance of anything currently available, and for light daily use, costs just a few cents a day. That's generally not a meaningful expense, but if you're already heavily embedded in the OpenAI ecosystem and you have a paid account, GPT-4o is also a solid choice. It's particularly strong at vision and multimodal tasks. If you're thinking about using OpenClaw for a lot of automated background tasks that run frequently, Gemini 1.5 Flash from Google has a very low cost per token. It's worth considering if volume is a factor. And if you don't want to use any external API at all, Llama lets you run models like Llama 3 and Qwen entirely on your own hardware with no API calls and no monthly cost. Day 3 is entirely devoted to Llama, so if that interests you, then hang on. The important thing to know is that you are not locked into whatever you pick right now. You can switch providers anytime you're running openclaw configure again, or by just editing the config file directly. Just pick something and then get moving. So what is an API key? An API key is your credential with the AI provider. When your agent sends a message to Claude or GPT-4 or Gemini, the API key is what tells a provider who you are and whose account to bill. Think of it like a password that authorizes your usage. 3 key things worth understanding here. First, it's your key, so it's your bill. You pay the provider directly, there's no markup or middleman. Anthropic's going to charge you or OpenAI charges you based on how much your agent uses their model. Second, your key stays on your machine. When you paste it into the onboarding wizard, it gets stored inside a credentials folder inside the .openclaw directory. It's not going to leave your machine. It doesn't get sent anywhere else, right? Third, free tiers do exist. Both Anthropic and Google, I believe, do give free credits on new accounts, and you don't need a credit card to get started on either platform. Olama is also always free. One security point that is a non-negotiable here, you want to treat your API key exactly like a password. Don't paste it into a chat, don't put it in a screenshot, don't ever commit it to a Git repository. If you accidentally expose one, go to the provider's console and rotate it immediately. If you're going with Anthropic, here is the exact process. Step 1 is you want to go to console.anthropic.com, create an account if you don't already have one. New accounts get free credits with no payment method required to get started. Step 2, click Get API Keys in the left sidebar and then click Create Key. You want to give it a name like openclaw so future you knows what it's for when you're looking at a list of keys 6 months from now. Step 3 is copy the key immediately after it's created. You can start with sk-ant. This is the only moment you will ever see the full key. If you close that page without copying it, you can't retrieve it again, and you'll have to create a new one. Step 4 is go to billing and then set a monthly spending limit before you do anything else. $5, $10 is a reasonable starting cap. The reason this matters is if a heartbeat task ever gets into a loop or runs more than you expected, this cap is what keeps you from seeing a surprise bill. It takes 30 seconds to set. Step 5 is when the onboarding wizard asks for your API key, just paste that in there. That's the only place it needs to go. If you're going with OpenAI, the flow is platform.openai.com, sign in, click API keys on the left sidebar, create a new secret key. The key is going to start with SK, copy it immediately and make sure that you add a payment method and set a usage limit in the billing settings. If you're going with Google Gemini, go to aistudio.google.com, click Get API Key in the top navigation, create a new key. Last time I checked, the free tier was pretty generous for personal use. The key is going to start with AIZA, copy it before you close the page. You only need one key, so use whichever one matches the provider you chose during onboarding. If you decide later that you want to switch providers, you can run openclaw configure and swap it out. We're also going to look at the config file in a few slides, which is another place you can make that change. Onboarding is done. Now let's understand the gateway because this is the process you'll be coming back to constantly. If you included the install daemon flag when you ran onboarding, the gateway is already registered as a background service and it started automatically. You don't need to do anything manually at this point, but here are the commands you need to have ready. To start the gateway manually, just run openclaw gateway. To register it as a service that starts automatically on login, run openclaw gateway install. To check whether it's currently running, check run openclaw gateway status. To open the control UI dashboard in your browser, run openclaw dashboard. And to see recent logs, run openclaw logs. The gateway runs on port 18789 by default, and the dashboard is only accessible at that address on your local machine. It's not exposed to the internet, which is exactly how it should be. We talk about why that matters later during security. When you run openclaw gateway status, the slide shows you what a healthy output should look like. Let's read through what you're looking for. You want to see two specific things: port 18789 in the bind line and runtime running. That combination tells you that the gateway process is up, the dashboard is accessible, and your agent is ready to receive messages. Two things that indicate a problem here. If you see runtime unknown, the process isn't running. Start it with openclaw gateway or register it as a service with the openclaw gateway install. If you see missing config, it means the onboarding wizard didn't complete properly. Run openclaw doctor and it'll tell you exactly what step was missed. That line that says service launch agent loaded means the daemon is registered as a system service. On macOS, it uses a launch agent. On Linux, it uses soul.md. On Windows, it uses a different mechanism, but the status output looks the same regardless of the platform. When something looks wrong and you're not sure why, the first command to run is always openclaw doctor. Checks every dependency, every config value, and every running service, and tells you in plain language what's wrong. Run openclaw dashboard and your default browser opens to the control UI. This is your primary interface for everything openclaw is doing. The sidebar on the left is your navigation. Let me walk you through each tab so you know what's where. Chat is where you have your conversations with your agent. You get the full message history, streaming responses as they come in, and tool call logs appearing in line so you can see exactly what the agent is doing behind the scenes. Sessions show your conversation history across all past chats, usage stats per session, and a search function. Heartbeat is where you monitor your scheduled runs. You can see the output from the last run, the countdown to the next one, and you can pause or resume the heartbeat from there. Memory lets you browse what your agent has stored about you and search across the memory files. Tools show which tools are currently active and has a log of recent tool calls. Skills is where you manage installed skill packs. Channels shows connection status for every channel you've configured, like WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord, and others. Config lets you edit the main config file, either through a form UI or directly as raw JSON, and the changes apply automatically without a restart. Spend a couple minutes just clicking through these tabs before we move forward. Familiarity now will pay off later. Go to the chat tab. This is where we actually confirm that the whole stack is working end to end. Send 3 messages in this order and don't skip any of them. First message is hello, what's your name and what can you do? This is your baseline test. If you get a coherent response, It means the model connection is working, the agent started correctly, and successfully loaded the workspace files. Second message, search the web for today's top AI news. Watch what happens in the chat window. Before the agent gives you an answer, you'll see a tool call appear in line, showing you exactly what it did. That level of transparency, right? Being able to see the agent's actions as they happen is one of the things that genuinely separates OpenClaw from the other tools. Third message, tell your agent your name and where you live and ask it to remember it. Something like, my name is Adiraj and I live in LA. Please remember this. After you send it, click over to the memory tab in the dashboard. You should see a file there with today's date that contains what your agent just stored. That's the memory system working on its first run. If all three of those work, your installation is complete. Everything is talking to everything else the way it should. Let's walk through what's actually in there because those files are where you'll spend most of your time in this bootcamp. Soul defines your agent's persona, tone, and boundaries. It's loaded at the start of every single conversation. This is what makes your agent sound like an agent rather than just a generic assistant. The agent's markdown file contains the operating instructions, so the rules, priorities, how the agent should handle different situations. It's also loaded every session. User is the information about you specifically, so who you are, how the agent should address you, the context that helps it serve you better. Identity holds the agent's name, emoji, and overall vibe. This gets created during the bootstrap process when you first run onboarding. Tools is a notes file about your tools and conventions. It describes things but doesn't actually control which tools are available. Heartbeat is an optional short checklist your agent reads during scheduled heartbeat runs. More on that in the next two slides. The memory folder contains daily log files, named by date, one per day, append only. This is where you'll remember this message from the previous slide just landed. The memory markdown file is an optional curated long-term memory file for private information you want available during sessions. The boot markdown file is an optional startup checklist that starts every time the gateway restarts. You want to keep it very short. One thing that catches people off guard is that your main config file and your API keys are not in the workspace. The config is a file called openclaw.json, and the keys are sitting in a credentials folder, both directly in the .openclaw directory, one level above the workspace. Those are intentionally separate, and we're going to look at the config file right now. The config is a file called openclaw.json sitting in the .openclaw folder in your home directory. This is the master control file for how OpenClaw behaves, and it's worth understanding the structure. It uses a format called JSON5, which is basically JSON, with two small improvements. You can write comments with double slashes, and you can use trailing commas. You can edit it directly in any text editor, use openclaw configure for an interactive menu, or use the config tab in the dashboard. Looking at the structure on the screen, under agents inside defaults, you have the workspace path, the model configuration, and the heartbeat settings. The model field uses a provider/model name format. For Claude Sonnet from Anthropic, that looks like Anthropic/Claude-Sonnet-4-6 as a string. The heartbeat interval goes under the heartbeat.every, like 30M for every 30 minutes or 2H for every 2 hours. The channel section is where Telegram and the other integrations live. We look at the Telegram config in detail later. The gateway watches this file continuously and applies changes automatically when you hit save. Most edits don't require a restart at all. Never commit this file to a Git repository. It can hold credentials, so add it to your Git ignore. Your workspace files are safe to version control, but the config file is not. Out of everything in your workspace, the Soul Markdown file is the one file that has the most direct impact on your day-to-day experience with the agent, so let's spend a real minute on it. The Soul Markdown file is plain Markdown. Your agent reads it at the start of every single conversation. It's how the agent knows how to present itself and what its limits are. Structure has three parts. A persona section that covers the agent's name, tone, and the general vibe, whether it should be direct and terse or warm and conversational, whether it should be casual or more formal. That's all configurable through what you write here. A communication style section covers how replies get formatted, when the agent should ask for clarification versus just acting. And the boundary section is where you put hard limits, things like what the agent will not do regardless of what's asked. The default Soul Markdown file that the wizard generates is functional but totally generic. It'll work, but it doesn't sound like anything specific. On day 7, we're going to rewrite it from scratch to match exactly how you want your agent to communicate. For today, all I want you to do is open up the file in a text editor, literally just read it. Start forming opinions about what you like and what you want to change. That preparation will make day 7 significantly more valuable. To open it, it's called soul.md in the workspace folder inside .openclaw. Any text editor is going to work. The changes take effect on the next conversation with no restart needed. The heartbeat is the file that gets the most misunderstood, and I want to clear it up now so it doesn't cause confusion later. The heartbeat.md is an optional guidance checklist. Your agent reads this file during a scheduled heartbeat runs. It's text for the agent to follow. It's not where you set the schedule, and it does not contain any scheduling configuration. The schedule lives in the config file in openclaw.json under the heartbeat.every field. That's where the 30M or 2 hours goes, not in this file. The content of this heartbeat file looks like what's on the screen. It's a short bullet list of instructions, something like check for any pending tasks in memory, or send a morning briefing if it's before 9 a.m., or stay silent if nothing needs attention. That's the right level of detail. And the most important thing that the docs say about this file is to keep it short. Every heartbeat run loads this file into the context window. A longer file means that more tokens are consumed on every single tick. If your heartbeat fires every 30 minutes, a bloated heartbeat markdown file compounds in cost very quickly. A few focused clear bullets is the right format. The heartbeat tab in your dashboard shows you the last run output and the countdown to the next one. You can pause and resume the heartbeat from there. Telegram setup has 3 steps. This is step 1, getting a token from BotFather. Open Telegram and then search for BotFather. The @ version, which is at BotFather. There's only one and it has a blue verified checkmark next to its name. Send the /-newbot command to start the creation flow. BotFather will ask you for 2 things. First, a display name. This is what appears in the header in your chat. Call it whatever you want. Second, a username. This is the public handle people will use to find your bot. It has to be globally unique across all of Telegram, and it has to end with the word bot. Once you give it a valid name, BotFather will send you your bot token. It looks like a long string of numbers, a colon, and then a longer mix of letters and numbers. You want to copy that token before you close that conversation. Treat it exactly like a password. Anyone who has this token can control your bot, so don't share it or post it anywhere. That's step 1. Step 2 is add that token to your config. Open your openclaw.json file, the one in your .openclaw folder in your home directory, and add a channel section within the Telegram configuration shown on the screen. Bot token set to the token you just copied from BotFather, and the DM policy set to pairing. The last one controls who's allowed to message your bot, and we cover the pairing step right after this. There's 3 ways to actually make this edit. You can open the file in the text editor and add it directly. You can run openclaw configure for the interactive setup menu, or just use the config tab in the dashboard, which has a form UI for exactly this. There's no command called openclaw channels login Telegram. That command does not exist. Telegram does not use an OAuth login flow like some of these other platforms do. The bot token in JSON config is the entire setup process. If you've seen that command mentioned anywhere else, ignore it. You want to save the file and the change will apply immediately. The gateway is watching the config continuously. Step 3 is pair your own Telegram account with your bot. You want to make sure that the gateway is running, then open up Telegram, find your bot by its username, and then send it any message at all. Because you set DM policy to pairing, your bot's not going to respond to anyone whose account hasn't been explicitly approved. When an unrecognized account messages it, the bot replies with a pairing code and waits. That pairing code is what you're going to use to approve yourself. Go back to the terminal and run openclaw pairing list Telegram, and you'll see your pending request with that code. Then run openclaw pairing approve Telegram, followed by that code. After that, go back to Telegram and then send another message, and your agent's going to respond. That moment right there is genuinely worth a pause. That's your own AI agent running entirely on your own hardware, responding to you through an app that's already on your phone. It's your machine, your agent, and your data. Now on the access control side, the pairing codes expire after 1 hour, so don't wait too long after getting the code. The DM policy setting also supports allow list if you want to specify a fixed list of allowed account IDs, and you can set it to open if you want anyone to be able to message the bot, and likewise disabled if you want to turn off direct messages entirely. Let's go through the errors that actually show up and the exact fix for each one. The address already in use error on port 18789 means something else on your machine is occupying that port. On Mac or Linux, run lsof-i:18789 to find which process is using it, then kill that process. Otherwise, you could change the gateway port setting in your config to something like 18790 and use that instead. If you get openclaw command not found, it's almost always a path issue. Run npm prefix -g to find where npm puts globally installed tools, take that output, add /bin to the end of it, and then put that whole path in your path variable in your shell config file, either in your .zshellrc or your .bashrc. Open a new terminal window and then try it again. A 401 authentication error means your API key is wrong, or there's extra white space around it. Rerun openclaw configure and paste the key fresh from the provider's console. Don't type it by hand, and double check for spaces at the beginning or end. If you see an error about the node version being too old, run node-v to check what you have. If it's below version 22.14, update with fnm install 24, and then reinstall openclaw with npm install -g openclaw at latest. A permissions denied error on npm usually means the global npm prefix has a permissions conflict. The fix is to switch to a user-owned location. So run npm config set prefix pointing to a .npm global folder in your home directory, and then add that to your folder's bin subdirectory to your path. And the universal first step whenever you see something you don't recognize is run openclaw doctor. It's going to check every dependency, every config key, and every running service and tell you exactly what's wrong. You want to start building these habits now. Never commit openclaw.json to Git Add it to your .get ignored today, not when something goes wrong. Your workspace files, your soul, your agents, all of that is totally fine version control. The config file is not because it can hold credentials. Leave exec in confirm mode. By default, when your agent wants to run a shell command, it's going to ask for permission first. That confirmation step is not an inconvenience, it's a safety net between you and an automated process that has access to your terminal. We look at when and how to adjust this on day 13. Until then, leave it on. Keep DM policy set to pairing on Telegram. The pairing flow means that you manually approve each account. Anyone can find your bot's username, but only accounts you've explicitly approved get responses. Don't switch to open unless you fully understand what that means. Keep the gateway on localhost. Port 18789 is bound to your local machine only. Don't open it to the public internet. If you need to reach your agent from somewhere else, the right way is through an SSH terminal, not a public port forward. Set a spending limit with your AI provider. Every major provider has a monthly cap option. You want to set it to somewhere between $5 and $10 when you're first getting started. If a heartbeat task ever runs more than expected, that cap is what prevents that from becoming an unexpected charge. These are the commands you'll reach for constantly over the next 2 weeks. It's worth memorizing or at minimum bookmarking the slide. For Gateway, OpenCloud Gateway starts it manually. OpenCloud Gateway install registers it as a background service. OpenCloud Gateway status checks if it's running, and OpenCloud logs shows your recent log output. For the dashboard and chat, OpenCloud Dashboard opens the control UI in your browser. OpenCloud Chat drops you into terminal-based chat mode if you prefer that. For setup and config, OpenCloud Onboard is the full wizard, and OpenCloud Configure lets you update your configuration at any time without going through the whole wizard again. For Telegram pairing, OpenCloud Pairing lists Telegram, shows pending requests, and the OpenCloud Pairing approved Telegram, followed by the code, approves a specific account. For diagnostics, OpenCloud Doctor is your health check for everything, and OpenCloud Update upgrades you to the latest version. That's the core set. Everything else will come up naturally as we go deeper into specific topics over the next few days. 5 things before day 3, do not skip these. 1 is get to a working gateway status. Run OpenCloud Gateway status, and you want to see runtime running on port 18789. If it doesn't look right, then run OpenCloud Doctor and follow what it tells you. 2 is send those 3 test messages in the dashboard. Basic hello, a web search, and telling your agent something about yourself to store. Check the memory tab after the 3rd one to confirm it actually wrote something. 3 is connect Telegram and get a reply on your phone. You want to get the BotFather token, add it to the config file, pair your account using the pairing approved command, send a message, and then get a response. Do the full flow. 4 is you want to open the soul markdown file and the agent's markdown file in a text editor and just read through them. You don't need to change anything just yet. Just read through them and start forming opinions. Day 7 is where we rewrite the soul from scratch, and the more specific your ideas are going in, the better the result you'll get out. 5 is run OpenCloud Doctor and make sure that every check passes green. If anything fails, then copy the exact output and post it in the community at school.com/sprint. We'll get you the help you need on the exact same day. The next 13 lessons are built on top of what you do today, so don't move on without completing these. That's day 2. If you did the homework, you now have a real running agent. Most people who say they've tried AI agents have never actually gotten this far. On day 3, we go deep on models and Ollama. OpenCloud supports more than 35 different AI providers, and we're going to look at what that actually means in practice when you choose one over another, and how to set up Ollama so your agent can run Llama 3 completely locally with no API at all. It's free, offline, running on your own machine. It's one of the most satisfying things in the whole bootcamp. Finish the homework, and I'll see you on day 3.